Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harris. Thank you so much for swinging back by. Today, I'm here with a good friend of mine from the No Limit Mastermind, a friend of RCN, one of our borrowers, and an all-around cool guy, Anthony Todesco. Anthony, thank you for being here.
Appreciate you having me.
So no relation to Mike Todesco, the owner of Appraisal Nation, the AMC company.
I wish, but no.
We had him on the show recently. So if you think this is Mike's kid, it's not. He said, I wish. I hear you. So, Anthony, the audience may or may not know who you are, so why don't you just take about a minute and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yep. So, my name is Anthony Todesco. I'm from Houston, Texas. I own a real estate flipping and investing company. We do wholesaling, flipping, you name it, we do it nationwide. So, we're not just in Texas. Well, I say nationwide, we're in 7 states. Outside of that, we're just the average investor.
You're based in Houston?
Correct.
And you're 12, it looks.
I'm 12. I'm 26 years old, yeah.
26 years old. Wow, my son is 22. I meet all you young guns, and I always just hope that my children kind of inherit that belly full of fire I had and achieve what you guys have. And we'll get into that in a minute. But the first segment every week, I call the bottom line up front. When I was in the Marine Corps, they always taught us don't bury the lead, right? You didn't know if the general would have to get up halfway through the briefing, and you need to make sure he knew the most important things. So take up to 2 minutes, just talk to the audience about the most important things you're seeing in the market, maybe things you think people should be focused on, or maybe some things that you think people should be avoiding. So just up to 2 minutes, kind of the cliff notes of what we'll talk about for the next 35 minutes. Good to go?
Sounds good.
Go.
Yeah, so I think right now the real estate industry is evolving. We're seeing a lot of, houses sitting on the market that we weren't seeing, months prior. And I think that has a lot to do, obviously, with interest rates and just, a whole lot of things with the economy in general. So I think a focus as an investor you need to have is looking at those properties that are sitting for a long time, because we're actually picking up a lot of deals. We go on literally Zillow and we look for deals that sit for 100 plus days. And we're having a huge ton of success with those properties that are sitting 100 plus days. I mean, I can give you an example. We even reached out to a new build. It was a new build community. Their houses had been sitting for about 70-ish days. They were priced at $280,000. I went in there, I said, hey, we're going to go ahead and offer them. We offered them $150,000 and they actually accepted. So we're on contracting on 3 houses right now, complete new constructions, and $150,000, which is $120,000 less than they were asking. So it's just things like that to, watch in the industry, because people are desperate right now, man. It's coming towards the new year. They're wanting to offload their product. Houses already don't sell easily when it comes to the holidays. So now's a great time to take advantage of that. The other thing I would say with like wholesaling in general, because I'm in that industry heavy, is, cold calling was a great method. Everybody does it. But I've been seeing a lot of success with like Facebook ads, pay-per-click ads. And I think that's kind of where this industry is evolving to.
I'm the old guy in the room. Well, not only this room, but pretty much every room I go into these days. And it's always funny to hear a young man like yourselves talk about what things are evolving to, right?
Right.
And it's even more funny for me to hear people say, oh, well, houses are sitting for a long time. Because, when I learned this business, it was perfectly normal to market a house for 90 days before you sold it. It was perfectly normal to own a flip for 180 days every time. And almost all your buyers originally were FHA buyers, right? And, the last 2 to 4 years, FHA buyers have just been kind of like, yeah, good luck. But now that you're getting to these affordability issues, these high interest rates, high taxes, high insurance, I feel like FHA buyers are getting a little bit more of an advantage. So let's talk about your infrastructure, your business a little bit. You're based in Houston. You're in 7 markets. What are those markets?
Yeah, so we're in Texas, Florida, California, Ohio, Tennessee, Georgia, and California. Or I already said California?
I don't know.
Yeah, California. There you go.
All right. So when you say markets, you mean states.
States.
Because Texas is like not a market. It's like 10.
Yeah.
So I know you buy some houses. Do you only take title in Houston and wholesale in the rest? What's that kind of exit strategy mix look like across the nation?
Yeah, so I buy what makes sense. Where the most equity is, where the best rental markets are, that's where I buy. I actually don't own anything in Houston yet. I'm about to close on a fourplex in Houston. but I have 6 doors in Memphis, Tennessee. So I buy in Memphis, mostly wholesale around it, but I've also flipped in a few states.
So when you say buy, you're actually keeping some rental properties.
Correct.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, so many young guns get kind of addicted to that. It's funny. I posted a TikTok the other day and got like 35,000 views because it's like I made fun of a guy with a McLaren. I was like, "Whose McLaren's that out front?" And the guy's like, "Me." I'm like, this guy. And I was like, "I hope you're keeping some of those houses." And the dude had the best reply ever. He goes, "I don't sell any of my houses." I was like, "Yes, you're buying the McLaren with house money, right?" Like, and I just love that. What made you get into real estate investing?
To be completely honest with you, so my background is actually nursing. Crazy, doesn't have anything to correlate. I went to school for nursing, grew up with a family that, didn't make a lot of money. So that was the career that seemed like, hey, I can have a stable job, do this, and provide for my family. Going into college, I did that. I did a lot of stocks, learned like that, even crypto, learned that, side of investing. And I realized that real estate just seemed the safer route. And so I was like, let me try to create a company around real estate. And that's exactly what I did.
And for the audience out there that may be newer or considering this, what resources did you find the most helpful? And on the flip side of that afterwards, which ones did you maybe feel led you a little astray?
Yeah. As far as resources go, I think it all comes with, having money, to be honest with you. I mean, you can do things without money, but obviously money helps. And so, I saved up money from working as a nurse and dumped it into real estate. And I think the biggest resource is just mentorships. It can excel you past limits you can't just do on your own, or you could do, but would take years and years and years to do. And so that's kind of what I did. And then things that like led me astray were, YouTube University has a lot of great education, but it has a lot of education that makes things sound too good to be true. And so when you're watching this stuff, you're like, hey, I can buy a house with no money, and you can, but you need to know how to do that, right? It's not as simple as it always, is let out to be.
So I thought you'd say Facebook University. I find that to be the most misleading because, like, people just today on the way here, a lady that I'm connected with asked a question: how do you owner finance a house you have a DSCR loan on? And we do a couple hundred of those a week right now, and I know the paperwork really well. And I can tell you, you're not allowed to sub to that, right? I mean, it's a violation of due on sale clause. And I don't care what mentor tells you it's okay, it's not. You're breaking your word. You're breaching the contract. That's illegal, right? And so I commented, like, please don't. You'll find yourself in trouble. Plus, if your word's no good, neither are you. It's kind of one of those things my granddaddy taught me. But then I just read the rest of the comments like, oh, join this dude's group and he'll teach you. And, oh, send me, I'm happy to do it for you. And I'll do this and I'll do that. I'm like, man, there's a lot of, they're not scammers. I mean, like it's
fluff.
In theory, it can be a solid investment strategy.
Right.
But like you said, there's a lot of things that you don't know that can come back to bite you. Would you agree?
Exactly.
What are some things that have come back to maybe bite you in your career?
I mean, trying to be cheap, I'll be honest, is one of them. Flipping houses, it's not, I mean, you have a tight budget usually when you're flipping a house. You're trying to do as quickly as possible for the least amount of money as possible. But I've run into so many bad contractors doing that, man, like trying to, nickel and dime my contractors saying, hey, let me get another bid, and find the one that'll do the cheapest. Man, I've probably lost, well over $100,000 doing that. So I've kind of learned my lesson there. Being cheap is definitely one of those areas. And then also, like you said, with like subject twos and stuff, I know a lot about that industry as well. It's a gray area, and gray areas can always have potential to go bad.
It's really not gray. Like if it says you can't sell a house without paying off the mortgage, you can't sell a house without paying off the mortgage. It's kind of funny you say that because I use this example a lot with our customers that do a lot of flips. It's, if that plumber is bidding you $1,000 more than you planned to pay, but he or she can do it this week, and you spend 2 weeks trying to find someone that can do it for what you planned, so many investors don't realize, well, number one, you just burned up that money you saved, you just burned it up in interest, taxes, insurance, lawn care, etc. Right? Like, so I think everything in this business is probably like what we have to optimize for.
Right.
So what are some things that you're seeing out there that are really working right now? You talked about buying kind of on-market properties.
Yeah.
What are some other things?
Yeah. So I think really working as far as marketing goes.
Marketing, finding good subs, places to eat. I don't know, like whatever's working for you today.
Right. So as far as marketing goes, like I said, we've had a lot of success with Facebook ads, a lot of success with Google ads, and our conversions are really well on that. You're not having to spend as much time because cold calling itself is something this industry does a lot, but it takes, you have to have so many conversations, have to deal with so much BS to finally get a deal with cold calling. And same thing with texting. And there's so many regulations coming out with texting. I mean, you could talk about a whole show just on that. So we won't get into it. But with PPC, which is pay-per-click, which is like Google ads, or PPL, which is pay-per-lead, because there's sites you can go and just buy leads in markets. And Facebook ads, we're seeing like a 1 in 6 to 1 in 10 conversion on those. And we're having a lot of success.
Very cool. We're going to come right back from a break and talk about kind of where you're finding your buyers, where you're finding your properties. But I do want to hit home on something Anthony just said. My mama taught me if you have to do something at night and pray you don't get caught, you shouldn't do it. And I think investors or wannabe investors or new investors, whatever you are out there, that applies to these cold calling rules and laws. It applies to these text message rules and laws. It applies to bandit signs. And it's always amazing to me. Investors want to complain about code enforcement, but then they're the ones that put out all the bandit signs all day that code enforcement has to spend all morning picking up before they show up to that investor's house. Yeah, no wonder he red tagged you, right? Like, he's mad at you. You're part of the problem. So don't be part of the problem and stick around. We'll be right back. At RCN Capital, we know that time is money. With our competitive rates and quick turnaround time, you can receive funding in as little as 10 days. We offer flexible payment plans to relieve the pressure of repayment process. Our team is experienced in making sure that you choose a loan that will suit you best. Get on the phone with the loan officer today by emailing info@rcncapital.com or clicking the link in our bio. Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Tim Harridge here with Anthony Todesco. Anthony, I want to dive straight in to something you talked about, Facebook ads, Google ads, and that was about finding houses. But you said you're heavy into wholesale in many of these markets. Where are you finding the buyers?
So to be honest with you, I use software like InvestorLift. It's a big database. So you can find, tons of buyers. They have the numbers for the buyers. You just call them up and, pitch the deal. Outside of that, Facebook groups is a good place to, find buyers. And if you just go on, like say I have a deal in Cleveland, Ohio. I go into Cleveland, Ohio, say sell my house in Cleveland, Ohio. You're going to see a bunch of companies like me who do PPC, but those guys also probably have buyers. They might be in that market specifically, and you can call them up as well and ask them, to partner up. Partnering up in markets that you're unfamiliar with is a big thing I do.
So you've mentioned partnering, you've mentioned mentoring. Maybe expand on that. I think somebody at Google once said, no one knows everything, but everyone knows something. Right? So talk about ways, maybe, we won't talk about how important it is. You've already established that. What are some other ways that you've found in taking advantage of mentorship or partnerships?
Yeah. So, mentorships themselves, obviously you can learn things that, took them hundreds of thousands of dollars in trial and error to learn. And that's always super valuable. They can put the systems and processes in place that they spent years and years building, and you can replicate it. That's super valuable. And as far as, partnering up on things, you're adding value to someone by partnering up. So, I call somebody in the Cleveland, Ohio market or, the Los Angeles market where I'm not super familiar with. I don't have a ton of buyers. I don't have a ton of connections, but I contact a guy who does what I do in that market. And he's a big time player. And I add value to him by bringing him a house because maybe he wants to buy it, or even if he doesn't, he probably has someone who does want to buy it. And then we break bread together. We make money together. And that's how we start that relationship. And then the next time he has a deal in Houston, he thinks of me.
Back when I was first getting started 20-something years ago, there were these things called books. And people actually read them. You didn't have Chat GPT tell you about it or listen to it. And one of the first books I ever read in this industry was The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller, founder of Keller Williams. And in the book, it talks about finding networking groups and mentorships and things, because if you look at your career in this industry, it's like a ladder. And like you just said, a good mentor can help you skip a lot of rungs on the ladder and just lift you up to where they're at. But on that note, Donovan Ruffin, that's how you and I met.
Right.
I love Donnie. He's a big-time investor and wholesaler based in the DFW area. How did you meet Donovan and his group, the No Limit Mastermind? What has that done for your career?
Yeah, so I met Donovan initially at an investor event. It wasn't held by Donovan. He was just a speaker there. That's where my initial contact with him was ever made. After that, I saw, I think it was probably 6 months later, him talk about taking on a few people in a mentorship. And I knew that it was time for me to, take my side hustle into an actual hustle and an actual business. And that's exactly what I did, man. I paid for his mentorship. He walked me through the process. And I can tell you, so I've been in this industry personally for 2 years, as far as like flipping houses and stuff goes, selling a deal here and there. But I didn't take it serious until actually this year. So January 1st is when I kind of linked up with Donovan, went to his event, got him as a mentor of mine. Year to date, I've done over $750,000 in revenue. I own 6 doors at the beginning of the year and I own 0. And so it's just things like that you can kind of see, like I'm a living proof of how a mentor can help shape you because, at the beginning of the year, I didn't have no real estate under my belt as far as rental properties that I owned. And I was just, flipping a house here and there. It was just a complete side hustle. I was able to transform it into a business. I have an office, I have employees, and this has all happened within 12 months.
I think I remember hearing you made 100 G's on a couple different deals.
I made 177 off of one. I actually, subdivided a property out where I captured $1 million worth of equity in a property as well.
Am I supposed to call that a band or a rack? What's I'm the old guy. Translate 100 what?
It would be 100 bands.
100 bands. So following Donovan on social media, I get this pop hip culture. I don't know.
Right.
Millennial education. It seems like every day. So let's transition to that because how important, now that you've been doing this a couple years and now that you've seen what you've seen, how important was it to find a mentor that is truly still active in the business that they're mentoring you on?
I think it means everything because there's so many guys and, I'm not going to name names, but I can think of a ton just off the top of my head that I see on social media every day that aren't actively doing this industry. They did it 5, 6, 7 years ago when some of the methods they're teaching worked, but they're just not working anymore. And so they're pitching you, they're telling you, and they had a lot of success, give it to them in the last, 4 to 7 years, but they just don't do deals anymore. With Donovan, it's different, man. They're still doing 20, 30, 40 deals every single month.
Yeah.
So it's a great person to look up to. And that's what I would say, too. If you're looking for a mentor, look for people who are actually doing what you want to do, not just who did what you want to do, because, every industry is ever evolving.
It's funny. I still own a real estate company here in Dallas, and we're small. We'll do 40, 50 this year, but, we make 40, 50 grand a house.
Right.
And it's all direct mail,
Really?
period.
Yeah.
I spend $2,500, $2,600 a week on direct mail.
Nice.
And I've got my list, and I know the neighborhoods I want to buy in, and when my acquisitions people answer the phone, they know exactly what I'll pay for it. And it's always funny when we wholesale one because I used to be the best wholesaler in the nation. I would have argued that. And I suck now. I don't use Investor Lift or any of that. It's just, even though I know Robert Winsley, it's a great software. David Olds, everybody tells me about it. But I'm I'm good. I'm actually now loaning money to wholesalers that need an advance on their assignments.
Gator, that's what they call gator funding, or is that not the term?
What? Gator funding?
They call it gator lending, or that's a term I've used where you help them with the EMD or,
know.
Yeah.
I make 25% of my money. That was all I know.
Yeah.
And we signed a joint venture agreement, and I'll hook you up. Right? But at the end of the day, right, that's kind of the evolutions, and that would go back to what we said. That's where I am now in my career. I have cash. I have houses. I don't have time, right? I don't have time. So if I can find ways to make good returns on my money and help other people grow, and you're not going to catch me teaching a course on wholesaling because you guys would be like, what the hell, man? This dude is stuck in 2019 or 2015 or whatever it was. So it's kind of funny you say it because that's the way I feel. I did teach a course last year on midterm rentals because that's something I've been doing a lot of lately, and I'm having just huge successes at it. And I was like, I'm going to write a book and I was like, how am I going to write a book? I'll just record like a 8 or 9 week course and then give it to some ghostwriter and say, turn that into a book. Like, so like literally I taught the course just so I could write a book, and that'll come out in 2024. Maybe if I actually spend the time to finish it.
Nice.
All right. So we take one more break, come back, do the money minute, hit some rapid fire. Stick around. We'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-vest.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harris. I'm still here with Anthony Todesco. Anthony, it's time for the Money Minute. This is my favorite part of the show. You can be motivational. You can be really serious. I don't really care, but I want you to take 60 seconds. This is going to turn into a Instagram reel or a TikTok or a short or one of those other things. And I want you to pour into the audience the most important thing that you can. And just think of it like this. Imagine there's a young entrepreneur out there. Maybe someone they stumbled on this podcast and listened for the last 30 minutes, and this is what they want to do, but they don't know what to do. So up to 60 seconds, imagine this is the only advice they're going to get for the next 30 days.
Right.
Let that soak in. You're ready.
Got it.
Go.
So I know I touched on it throughout this whole podcast, but I think the most important thing I could let you guys know is to try to find somebody that's doing what you're doing now. If you don't have money to do it, I get it. Try your best to add value, whether that's working for that person for free, finding, going and door knocking and trying to find an ugly house that they might be able to purchase. If you want to be in an industry like ours, that's what I would suggest. The other thing I would suggest is networking events. I mean, most networking events are all free. And a saying I like to say is the more hands you shake, the more money you make. And so that is super important. You never know that next person you shake their hand, you don't know who they are. They could be a multimillionaire that doesn't have time, but they have resources, and you can utilize those resources to get to the next level.
Have you ever read the book or listened to it? I don't know what your generation does. How to Win Friends and Influence?
I have.
Yeah. So one of the principles in there, I'm always telling my kids is, most people really don't give a crap about you.
Right.
Right. All they care about is themselves. Right. So when you're walking up to me and you're worried about the way you look, it's cool because I'm worried about the same thing kind of thing. But I like what you just said there in a Money Minute. Give them something they need. Right. Make it about them. I teach networking classes at RCN because I'm really good at networking. Right. We're going to sit around and talk, and we won't talk about money.
Yeah.
You want to ask me points and fees and rates and terms? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, depends. I mean, you got your credit report with you, you got your bank account with you. I don't know. I mean, how many you done? There's so many that goes up, but let's don't worry about that. Just imagine I must be good at it. We do a couple billion a year, right? Tell me about you. What do you need? If you're asking me about money, clearly you don't have all the money you need. So what do you need? How can I help? Right? Because you may need transactional funding, right? And I may not offer transactional funding, but if I know someone that offers transactional funding really good, maybe I met someone else that recommended them, or I was at another networking place that met them, and I connect you to,
right?
You remember that, right?
Yeah.
I helped you get what you needed. And the only thing I do disagree with is don't work for free. I think after 20-something years in this business, I'm approached no less than 5 times a week by someone that wants to buy me lunch and pick my brain, or come work for me for free. I mean, I get offers people want to move from out of state, all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it just sounds like you're asking for a kid. Because I got kids. They work for free and they suck.
They suck.
And there's no, I love you, sons. I don't mean you suck. You're just not a good employee is all I'm saying. The point is like, get in there, Donovan. We keep talking about Donovan. He's always putting on his IG, him and Omar, like, hey, we're hiring a salesperson, a killer. Let's break bread together. What you talked about earlier, like, right. I got into this business. My first job was I was a project manager. I made crap money changing door locks and making sure people did stuff and sweeping up houses and putting out signs and driving around with a weed eater to kind of trim things up and cleaning off the front porches. But like that first year was valuable. That's what that guy's business needed.
Right.
And then after a year, hey, you want to learn acquisitions? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then he taught me acquisitions. And then, from there, that ended up not working out. But another guy that we had bought a bunch of wholesale deals from was like, dude, I like the way you work. Why don't you come work for me? So he was a home investors guy. I became his buyer, bought 143 houses. In a year as his sole buyer. Ran off all his other buyers because no one was going to outwork me. First year I ever made 6 figures. Then learned this thing called the IRS.
The IRS.
They wanted part of that money. I did not think that was fair, but I did pay them. But no, the point is like get involved in the business, right? Like add value to someone else, lead with value, because if you do walk up to a successful person and you're telling them all the things you want, like that conversation's not lasting long. It's just like oh, look, it's Donovan. I'll see you later. So that's really good advice. So here we are. It's 2024 by the time this episode airs. What are your plans for this year?
So to continue to scale my operations. So, hiring.
Scaling or growing?
Growing.
So, well, I will clarify.
There you go.
Growth is growth in sacrificing typically profits, right? So you're trying to grow. Scale is growing the business while maintaining profitability and or even increasing profitability.
So I will be trying to scale the business. So scaling the business, hiring out more people, building a bigger in-house disposition instead of, like I said, partnering is great. But obviously with partnering, there is money being left on the table. So having a team in place that focuses solely on that is where I'm scaling to. And then from there, like I said, going, more heavy into Google ads, Facebook ads, things like that I've seen performing really well, dialing down a little bit on like the cold calling and things like that. Sure.
So you're 26, you went to school to be a nurse. It does not sound like you have an MBA.
No.
How are you learning to scale and grow and hire and manage? And maybe what are you personally looking at studying, doing to prepare yourself for that task?
So again, watching somebody who has a team, grew a team, that's obviously super helpful. Reading books, still do that, even though it's not the day of it. But, reading books, and then just trial and error. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to be perfect at it. I know I'm not. I've already, pissed off a couple of my employees, but trial and error and just, having the humility to know that I don't know it all and to even learn from the guys I hire.
I'll tell you this. I said this on a stage a couple weeks ago in, where the hell was I? Florida. I was in Florida. So I'm going to tell you 2 things. First, get a book that you think maybe every one of your employees should read, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Think and Grow Rich, or The Richest Man in Babylon, Millionaire Real Estate Investor, something like that. And then go about 2/3 of the way through with pencil. I learned this from John Maxwell, and write, call me when you get here. That new employee, ask them in 2 weeks, how's that book? If they say great, say, did you finish it? If they say yes, fire them. They're a liar. The employees that you hire that call you the second week and say, hey, did you write this? It says, call me when you get here. That's the employee you pour into. That's the person that has your back. That's the person that will go above and beyond. So put that tip in your business. Another tip, and this is something that I believe wholeheartedly in, is study military philosophies. Too many entrepreneurs in the U.S. Fire Service, Napoleon and the U.S. Marine Corps do this best of anybody else in the world. Study the philosophies. So there's this thing called span of control. And span of control means no one person can effectively manage more than 4 people. It's just proven fact. You just can't effectively manage them. The second is called unity of command, and this comes from the U.S. Fire Service. I was a firefighter at one time. And the point about the unity of command is no one person can have more than one boss. In the fire service, the example was if I tell you to spray water through that window because I'm going in through the side door and I need you to be spraying water there, and someone else comes up and says, "Oh, spray the water over there," and you do what they said, well, now you're burning me alive. And so the idea is make sure you have good, solid leadership principles in place in your organization before you bring on employees. But I'm telling you, that book thing, what'll happen is you won't waste your time with people that will not dedicate themselves to you in the business.
Right.
It's powerful.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. And ultimately, those are the people you're going to fire anyway.
Yep.
So you might as well fire them in a probationary period before they get all their benefits and before you start relying on them. And especially if they lie. Like, if they're like, "I've started it, but I haven't finished it," cool. Say, "It's really important to me. Would you please try to finish it this month?" Like something like that.
Yeah.
But if they're like, "Oh, I read it. It was great." You're like, it's just, you got someone that's not, of course, nowadays, I guess, hindsight, did you read it or did you listen to it?
Right.
If they say they listen to it, say, "Well, I really need you to read it. There's some illustrations." And I don't know. Find a way to do it, because it's the liars that you want to get out of your organization, because you, as an entrepreneur, the hardest thing is trusting people. Trusting people because, I mean, you're the one that has to make payroll, right? Like, and that's a burden that hurts. When you know that people's livelihoods and lifestyles and families are reliant upon you running a good, solid business, it's different. Trust me. So, we're going to be out of time here soon. What are some things we haven't talked about that you think would be important for the audience to know as they get into 2024?
Like I said, just keep your mind open to the changing market. Rates may go down, they may go up. I'm not really sure. You might have a take on that more so than I do, but I know rates do definitely have an impact on things. And just keep your eye on, because people are starting to get desperate. There's definitely blood in the water right now. I mean, I can't speak on years before whenever rates already were high. These rates are super high to me. I got in this industry when things were 2.5% to 4%. So I'm like, man, this is double than we've ever seen in this. Yeah, triple than we've ever seen in this industry. So it seems super high, and I've seen the blood in the water. But like I said, you just have to be ready to pivot and evolve as the industry does.
There's a great book called "Who Moved My Cheese," and it's just kind of like, I'll give you the cliff notes. If you're used to going to get your cheese in your mouth at a certain spot, and it's not there one day, if you just keep going back to that same certain spot, you're going to starve, right? And the cheese has moved, right? Like the days of sight unseen, multiple offers, Facebook wholesaling, like, I'm not saying they're over, but it's definitely changed, right? I mean, look, I've been doing this 20-something years, and it got to where in 21 and 22, well, not 22, 21 for sure, my team picked up something, I just like slapped 60, 70 grand on it and put it in the Facebook group, and some Yahoo would pay me cash for it, and they weren't worried. And, it's definitely changed. So if someone's out there and they're like, "Man, I want to work for that guy," or "I'd like to be one of his buyers," or "I can sell him deals," how do they get in touch with you?
So my Instagram is at the Mr. Monopoly. It's a pretty cool name, I know.
You are Mr., right?
The Mr., yeah.
Not spelled out Mr.
THEMR.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Monopoly. And then you could also look up Amplified Properties. I'm sure my website will come up. It'll have contact information. You can get in touch with me that way.
And try not to click on the one that says sponsored ad. It cost him like $3.
Yeah. Thank you for throwing that in there. Yeah, don't click that one.
Well, like literally, and by the way, if you're ever taking his advice about how to find a cash buyer, try not to click on people's ads.
No, go on the Google page that has their website.
It pisses you off. Like some newbie wholesaler would call. Happened to me all the time, still does. "Oh, I saw your ad." It's like, "Oh, awesome. You just cost me $7.50. Do you have a house right now?" Oh,
yeah, 20% of the ads, the 20% of the stuff that I get in are wholesalers. So don't be that guy. Go to the Google website.
Well, when we were in Home Investors, when they would call, every time the phone would go beep, 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 like that's how you knew it was an advertising line call. And it just always, like Robert Kiyosaki would teach a seminar in town, and your phone would just start lighting up. And you were like, "Oh, my God, please stop. You just took me out of the rotation." Like somebody else is getting the motivated seller lead now. So when you're Googling and you find someone, just Go find their real webpage. Don't click on their ad. Save them a couple bucks. And then, tell them you did that, and then they'll be grateful for you. So, parting thoughts, parting shots?
No, just keep working hard, and I'd say, like I said, keep evolving.
Well, buddy, this was a great episode. Thank you for your time. And that is it. Speaking of time, we are out of time. Remember, your network is your net worth, and today you've been growing both. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.